We got a massive rainstorm, but we're at Hideaway Farm. Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash's home. Guess we won't be enjoying the scenery on the way up too much. This is insane. Even with the rain, this should be a lot of fun. We're gonna check out one of Johnny Cash's estates. This is the Hideaway Farm in Aqua, Tennessee. I know we're in for some fun when that says Elvis's bathroom window.
That they killed. He was one-eyed. They called him One-Eyed Jack. But Johnny killed that crocodile.
You said that was his best friend, Chance, that
Chance
probably took most of the photos we'll see. What do you mean, he bought it and didn't know?
Kind of something like that. And Johnny Cash's name.
Oh, gotcha.
So he was stealing.
So he inadvertently bought the house.
And the farm.
Wow.
And so when Johnny found out about it, he fired the accountant. He did not press charges because he was an old family friend.
Yeah.
He bought 4 different properties, and Johnny visited all of them. The 3 other properties he sold, but when he came out here and saw this one, he said, "No, I'm keeping this one."
I can understand
this place. Now, the cabin itself was built in 1837 by the Weems family, and they have a family cemetery here.
Oh, okay, okay.
But when Johnny purchased it, or realized he purchased the property, this is what it looked like. This is what the house looked like in 1972 when Johnny bought it.
Oh, wow.
Now, where you're standing is right here in this lean-to. And then in later years after he bought it, I think in 1994, he renovated this part of it, and this became his library. In fact, Johnny did a great deal of writing right here at this desk. His autobiography that you can find on Amazon, a good portion of this book was written sitting right here at this desk.
That's amazing.
And
I love that kind of stuff.
well, there's actually a whole section on the farm at Aqua. He talks about it, and I can't remember the page number.
Just so cool, because when you sit there and you think about him writing the book, you have to also think, right here, he reflected on so many memories of his life that, you know, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That's, let me see if I can get it.
Love the little statue of Minnie Pearl down here. That's really awesome. Probably took his naps right there.
If you read the book, he's sitting at the desk and he's looking out over the pasture, and there's a storm coming in from Memphis.
Kind of like today.
Kind of like today, and that's the pasture, that's the window he was looking out while he's writing that part about Aqua. This is the center of my universe. This is where gravity begins. Because when he would come off the road, he and June would come, you know, get off the bus. June had a black belt in shopping. And so when they would get off the bus at their house in Hendersonville, she would go off to New York or wherever to go shopping, and he would come straight out here. Sometimes he wouldn't even go in the house, but he would just get in his car and come straight to the farm.
That's awesome.
And out here, there was no record deals. There was no meetings. There was no...
Now, I know he had a studio at the Hendersonville, that area, that property.
Yes.
Did he have anything like that here, or was this strictly relaxing?
This was strictly relaxing.
I love it.
There was music here, though. But he did not have a recording studio. Now, I don't know which way you came in. If you came in from this direction, about a mile from here on the corner, there's an old store that has Coca-Cola on the
Yeah, we stopped there.
It's Storytellers. Okay.
Yep.
That actually is part of this property as well.
That's what I thought.
Because when Johnny, started coming out here, he found out that the locals were telling him, "Mr. Cash, we'd love to go to your concerts, but we just can't afford them."
Yeah.
So they bought that store and built a little stage. And so when they would be in town, they would do concerts for free.
That's awesome.
And they would do it on Saturday nights. In fact, that's where they wrote the song Saturday Night in Hickman County.
Wow, that's awesome.
Where that came from. So that little store down there, and then years later, Johnny sold it, and it became dilapidated. And Brian and Sally Oxley, when they found out that that's what that store was, I mean, it was all grown up. It was about to fall down. They went in and they said, if this little stage is still there and the bones are good, we're going to renovate it. And they did.
Awesome.
And that is a whole new thing down there. And guess what? The little stage is used now. They have songwriters rounds and they have live music on the little stage. So that's what that is. It wasn't a studio for Johnny. Now, way back in the day, it was a studio for Red Wortham, who recorded the Prisonaires.
Oh, wow.
Johnny Bragg and the Prisonaires, who inspired Elvis Presley. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the history.
Love the connection.
It all is funny how it all connects. So, but anyway, so this was his getaway. He would come out here and just be
his den. Yeah.
And for years and years and years, he didn't even have a telephone. And when he did get a telephone put out here, June was the only person in the world that had the number. So they met at a Bible camp, and they went to college here in the States. But after that, they moved back to Japan, and Brian became a business leader, traveling the world, but mostly in Japan. And when he retired a few years ago, he was in not a missions meeting, a business meeting in Chicago, Illinois, and he looked at him and there was a painting on the wall, and he said, "Who is that?" And they said, "Who is that?" "That's Johnny Cash." He was like, "Who is Johnny Cash?" He was raised up.
In Japan.
In Japan, he had never heard Johnny Cash. So, but after hearing about Johnny's life and mostly his redemptive story, he became very intrigued about Johnny's life, and then they found out about this farm, and through a series of dealings, they were able to purchase the farm.
That's awesome.
They made it into what it is today.
That's awesome. And like you said, they bought the old venue as well. So
yes.
Awesome.
Preserving country music, preserving Johnny Cash. That's what they've done. Now, you'll find here, there's more stuff besides Johnny that you'll find. But this part is just fascinating. But you will find little hints of Japan, little hints of Japan because of Brian and Sally's past.
I'm dying to go in here.
This is one of the coolest rooms of the house. And
wow.
Now what I'm going to do is, what is your name?
Jordan.
Jordan, okay. Jordan, I'm just going to show you the highlights.
Okay.
And then I'll let you walk around and
absolutely, yeah.
Video, whatever. This is Johnny's parents, and of course this is June's mom, Mother Maybelle Carter. The Carter family, as you know, were very
royalty,
instrumental in starting country music with the Bristol Sessions. Here is Johnny and June on the set of Little House on the Prairie.
Sure is.
And here is a replica of the costumes that they wore for that episode.
That's great.
One of my favorite paintings is this one here. It's called My Three Loves by artist Tim Ladwig. And it's Johnny's Three Loves, which is June, the guitar representing music, and the Bible. Johnny loved the Word of God. He was a student of the Word of God. In fact, many people don't know, he was actually an ordained minister.
Wow, I did not know that.
One of the locals told me here in Bon Aqua, when they were a kid at the local Baptist church, one Sunday morning, the pastor said, "We have a very special guest this morning. He's going to bring us the Word," and it was Mr. Johnny Cash. He actually preached the message here at the local church. Now, usually Johnny was by himself when he would come out here. However, every now and then his daughters would come out with him, and Cindy would come out here the most with him. And one time, she came out here and she had a little .22 pistol and was learning how to shoot. And it was just her and her dad that was out here. Nobody else was here. And she had been outside shooting. And she comes in, and Johnny had his couch recliner over here. And he was like, let me see that thing. And he just reached up and said, pow, pow, pow. And he handed her the gun and said, here, you match my bullet holes. And so she did, to see who could shoot in the straightest line. And that's where these bullet holes came, right here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely 22s.
There is a new store open in downtown Nashville in Marathon Village. It was the Mike Wolf from American Pickers.
Right, right.
He closed his store a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, Brian and Sally has that place now, and so they've taken a lot of the memorabilia that was here downtown.
Oh, okay.
And so one of those things that is at that store is the twin chair that goes with this.
Okay.
This is one of the chairs that was used in 1983. Waylon Jennings had gone sober, so to celebrate his 1-year anniversary of his sobriety, Johnny and June gave him a sobriety party. And there is a picture, it's not here, it's at the other shop, but there's a picture of Waylon Jennings holding pigtails. For the event, Willie Nelson cut off his pigtails and gave them to Waylon. And Waylon is sitting in this chair holding those pigtails.
Those pigtails now, I believe, are on display in the Willie Nelson and Friends Museum in Nashville if you want to see them.
They may be. I'm not sure. Now, these are not replicas. These are the actual clothes that Johnny and June wore.
I know Johnny was a real inspiration of Waylon for quitting, because Waylon always wanted to quit, and he said he ended up going to Johnny for help to finally kick it, because Johnny had finally kicked it.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
his boots.
And so at the
looks like some shots in the floor. Was he shooting at the floor too?
I don't know that that's
almost looks like buckshot to me.
Yeah, I don't think that's bullet holes. I think that's, I don't know. I'm not for sure on that. It's my understanding that these plants Johnny had, these are some of the ones that Johnny had.
Oh, original! Wow.
Mm-hmm. Here is Johnny's recliner. It's very, very, very comfortable.
Wow. Everything in black, of course.
Sure.
We went to his Casita Springs house. His toilet was black. They still had it.
The one here is not black. Of course, I don't think it's the original one that he used. But in 1976, they did their very first Christmas special, and the first 15 minutes of the Christmas special was recorded here at the farm. And here is Johnny and June with Tony Orlando on that Christmas special, singing "Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Tree."
Oh, you better be showing me that tree at some point in this tour, huh?
If you look right out here, I can't show you the tree because they cut it down, but here's the stump to that tree. That's where they were standing when they were...
Oh, wow. That is crazy. That big stump over there?
That is.
That is awesome. This room is just incredible. From the statue face, the bust. That, one of the guitars.
That was one of Johnny's guitars that was given to him by, I can't remember the Japanese gentleman, but he was good friends with Johnny. Now, that's not the guitar in the picture.
Yeah.
But that is the guy.
Saito?
Yeah. But this guitar was Johnny. And the set of strings in there was the last set of strings that Johnny Cash ever took off.
Whoa! That's crazy. Wow. I geek out on stuff like that, obviously.
Oh, I do too.
Wow. Patsy Cline's wig.
Yes, that is
wow.
one of her original wigs.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know the story behind that. I don't know he came to get that. But
Dead men tell no tales, huh?
now, this is part of the original cabin. This was the dog run. This was an open area, right?
Yeah. So this would have been the front door.
Yeah,
technically.
Yeah, we can go out here in a minute. You can take a picture of the.
Yeah, when we came in, it was raining pretty hard, so
Yeah, it looks like it's
mellowed out a little. Let's see what the house looks like.
looks like the sun's shining. Daughter's up here on this balcony.
Oh, really? Wow, what a cool place. So that's what it looks like, what the front looks like. You can't see it from the road, just so you know. If you're coming here, you got to come take the tour because it's up on the hill. And he said right up on that balcony is where that photo would have been taken with the girls. Look at all the little cherubs up there on the side of it.
Those belong to Cindy Cash. And
Oh, there's some everywhere.
And the day that she had just put them up on her house, her dad came to visit. And he goes, "Man, I like those angels. Can I have them?" And she said, "Sure, Dad." And so they stayed up at her house for one day. And he brought them out here and put them up.
I love it. Glad I asked about it.
Yeah.
There's the porch swing. You know those would have got used.
Mm-hmm. Lyrics by Johnny Cash. That was...
For the song you were telling us
Yeah.
about.
That is...
Saturday Night in Hickman County, right there. Handwritten lyrics.
Was left here. They found those in the closet back there.
I was kind of wondering how much stuff was left behind.
There was some stuff, but that's one of his cameras. He was an amateur photographer. Chance Martin showed him a lot. Did a lot of the.
Says his briefcase full of keys, hotel
Yes.
keys.
Because Johnny, those are still on loan. But, yes, he kept them as souvenirs.
I love it.
One of the stories about Johnny is his nephew, Mark Allen, told me this, that I don't know where they were at, but when Mark was young, he got to go on tour with his Uncle Johnny. And they had done a show that night. The next morning, they were checking out of the motel, and Johnny said, "Mark, was your room dirty when you checked in?" He goes, "Yeah, Uncle Johnny, it was." And Johnny Cash said, "Well, mine was too. I wonder why they do that." "I don't know, Uncle Johnny." Well, about that time, across the road, there was an 18-wheeler pulled up with a truckload of mules. And here goes Johnny Cash walking across the parking lot. And they asked, the driver, steps out and he says, "Oh my goodness, you're Johnny Cash." And it's like, "Yeah." He's like, "How much for one of those mules?" And the driver says, "Man, Mr. Cash, I'd love to buy one from you, but they're not mine." Well, Johnny reached in his pocket and he goes, pulled out a wad of money. He goes, "How about this much money?" And he said, "Which mule do you want, Mr. Cash?" And so Mark is holding the mule while his uncle pays him for the mule and all. So they're walking back across the road to the motel. Johnny takes that mule, opens up his hotel his room that he had just checked out of, brings the mule in the door, slaps the mule on the back, closes the door behind the mule, and he says, "Have a good life." He turns to Mark and he said, "I bet they'll clean the rooms now."
Yeah, that's awesome.
True story.
What's the deal with the stained glass?
That I'm not really for sure where they told me, but I cannot remember. Brian and Sally brought those in.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, and do they allow people to sign it, or did somebody at one point leave it abandoned and people came and signed it? Or
they've signed it people have signed it over the years.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of signatures, here's some of the famous ones. Here is, if you recognize that name.
Trisha Yearwood.
Yeah, her and Garth came out for a wedding a few years ago.
Wow. Oh, you guys, this is a wedding venue also.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have.
Oh, I'll promote that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Great to
They
see.
do wedding venues. They do corporate events. They do have We have the Gideon Film Festival that's been out here for the last 2 years.
You don't let people up there. Was that bedrooms also?
Yeah, that's
or?
just the living quarters where the owners live.
Okay.
There.
Wow.
And then this room is, we call it the piano room now. The piano I don't think was here then. I think the piano belonged to Ray Baker. I'm not for sure 100% on that, but I know it's like close to 100 years old. The guitar, they just got, that was Mike Wolf's. In fact, Mike has signed it right there.
Yeah.
There's a signature from Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother.
Yeah.
From the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
And then right here is Priscilla Presley's signature. And
whose amp?
That amp is the same type of amp that the band Tennessee 3 used.
Wow, Johnny's original band.
Right.
That's awesome. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I noticed a good picture of his pal Carl.
Yeah, Carl Perkins. Here's another picture of Johnny with Carl Perkins, the killer himself, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Big E, Elvis. Of course, this is the $1 Million Quartet at Sun Records in Memphis. Now, something that people don't realize is all four of these gentlemen, it's my understanding, went to Memphis to pursue gospel music.
They did. And, isn't that funny how that worked?
Fact, Elvis wanted to be a preacher, and that was the thing. So you'll also see some stuff from Elvis here, and the reason why is after the Oxleys had bought this farm, they were at a restaurant in Hendersonville one day and eating breakfast, and they was walking out and they saw the local paper advertise, or the front page showed that they were demolishing Colonel Parker's house in Madison. They was going to make it into a car wash. And Brian said, oh, no, we can't have this. So he was able to work a deal. They still tore the house down, but Brian was able to take a team, and over 3 months, they tore it apart piece by piece, like an archaeological team. And that is what these pieces are from. There's many, many more, but these tile came out of Colonel Parker's house. And here's some from the bathroom there. And he even kept, Mr. Brian keeps, he tries to save everything. Here is a piece of the telephone pedestal. Now you'd be wondering, why in the world would he keep...
Had to call Elvis.
Well, Elvis lived at this house with Colonel. In fact, this was the very first fan club headquarters was at Colonel Parker's house. But this phone system was the phone system that Colonel Parker used to call Ed Sullivan to get Elvis.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Show. So that's what...
you said that was some of the floor as well?
Yes, that is out of the bathroom. And there's more to see out in the American Garage. I'll take you out there in a few minutes. Coats.
June's mink coat. Wow. Like you said, she loved to shop. So
she loved to shop. Yep.
That was not an inexpensive purchase either, unless it was a gift. Paddington.
Yeah, I don't know what the story is on Paddington. That's a new thing. It's just been here a few days. But.
A quilt. We got a microphone up here, like they would have used back in the day. I love that picture of Johnny.
I can tell you that.
Here's the kitchen. Wow. Just imagine him having breakfast there.
Jeez. Well, here's a picture of Johnny eating, I don't know if it's breakfast, but he's eating sweets right here in the kitchen.
We looked hard enough, we could probably match up the knot holes too.
So, here's something about Johnny. You know, you saw my three loves. He loved June, he loved music, and he loved the Word of God. The two other things that he loved was he loved sweets and he loved people. And here's a story about that that his nephew Mark was telling us just the other day. One June had gone to one of her shopping sprees. She was going to be out of town for 4 days. Johnny was at his house in Hendersonville. So he calls up his brother Tommy, which is Mark's dad, and said, hey, June is out of town. I want to go get some ice cream. And so here comes Tommy came to pick up Johnny, and that was about the time that Johnny Cash was on an episode of The Simpsons.
Okay.
To say thank you, The Simpsons had sent him a bunch of T-shirts and everything. So to disguise himself, Johnny he put on a Simpsons shirt, some sunglasses, and I think a Simpsons hat, you know. But
that's hilarious.
It was just Johnny Cash.
Oh my God, I love that.
He went to the local Walmart, and he got some Bluebell ice cream, and he got 4 containers of it. And Tom was like, 4 containers? He goes, well, June's going to be gone 4 days. They figure it's...
Oh, yeah, container a day. Oh, my gosh.
So while he was there, it spread like wildfire that Johnny Cash was in the store. And when they came out, I mean, he came up, he paid for his ice cream. He did use cash. And when he turned around, there's a whole crowd of people waiting to meet Johnny Cash.
Of course.
Between him in the door. So what he did is he just went over to where the ice bins, where they keep the bags of ice.
Yeah.
And he put his ice cream in those bags, and he turned around, and for the next 3 hours, he talked to people, he signed autographs, took pictures with them, heard their stories, and just spent time with them.
That's amazing.
And after 3 hours, he finally caught a break, and he grabbed his bags and headed out the door. And as he was heading out the door, he noticed right outside there was a homeless gentleman and sitting there right by the door. Johnny handed the ice cream to his brother and said, give me a few minutes. So Tommy goes on to the car, and he sits in there, and he's watching his brother, and it's not very long. He sees Johnny Cash. Here's, you know, music icon Johnny Cash sits down beside this homeless guy, and he wasn't just a few moments later, he saw him put his arm around this homeless guy and begin to pray for him.
I was going to say, yeah, that's his.
And
he's a brother.
When he got up, Johnny reached in his pocket and handed the guy a whole wad of money. And when he came to the car, Tommy says, you know, why did you do that? You don't know he's just going to buy drugs or whatever with that. And Johnny said, I don't care. As long as it gets him through one more night,
yeah,
I don't care.
I had a friend that says the same thing. He's like, let him buy his own happiness, whatever that is, you know?
Yeah. And so that was the kind of a person that Johnny Cash was. Another true story about Johnny was, there was a good friend of ours who just passed away last year. His name is Jay Jackson, was personal friends with Johnny. Well, this was several years ago. But Jay's mother was on her deathbed in Hendersonville at the hospital, or in Nashville, wherever it was. But anyway, they got the word that she was about to pass. And so Mr. J rushed to the hospital. They want to say their goodbyes. When he pulled up, he saw Johnny's car there. And so he goes on up to up to the room. And when he comes in, there's his mom sitting up in bed talking with everybody. And she was like, did you see Johnny and June? They were just here. He said, yeah, I saw their car. She goes, well, Johnny just prayed for me. He prayed the sweetest prayer. And just like that, I'm feeling better.
Wow.
And she lived for several years.
Miracle.
A miracle.
Wow.
But speaking of miracles, here is some artifacts that they have found right here on the farm. Now this is, you can see it looks like pieces of
yeah,
some kind of
plates.
Well, it's my understanding that these artifacts were found right outside here when they started renovating the yard and the place. But they found broken plates and bowls.
I have a pretty good idea. I know what happened there.
Forks and spoons and knives. Because Johnny loved June, he loved music, he loved the Word of God, he loved sweets, and he loved people. But one thing he did not love was washing dishes.
Oh, okay.
And so while he would be here by himself, instead of washing dishes, he would just throw them out in the yard.
Okay, my guess was going to be having somebody throw them for him and him yelling pull.
Oh, it might have been something like that too. I can't verify that.
Wow.
But I do know that they said that he would just throw the dishes out in the
Pretty
yard.
cool.
Yes, bottles. are bottles that Johnny had found here on the property himself. Okay, and he loved collecting bottles and loved collecting arrowheads and anything that he found on the property. Well, his daughter Cindy, before Johnny passed away, he wanted to come out to the farm, and this is after June had passed. So she brought her dad out here to the farm and was letting him look around or whatever. And he handed her these bottles and said, "Here, I want you to have these." And that's when she realized he was saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And so she kept the bottles, and of course he passed away. And then she kept them for a long time. But when the Oxleys got the place and everything, she brought them back out here and said, "This is where these bottles belong."
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Most of the time, Johnny would usually just sleep in the recliner or on the couch in there. But if he did, go to bed, he would come in here. Now, this is not his actual bed. I will say that up front. But everything else, I know the bookshelf was exactly the way that he had left it with the Reader's Digest books.
Wow, that is so cool.
Here is Johnny and his first wife, Vivian, and their 4 daughters, Roseanne and Tara and Kathy and Cindy. Now, I don't know if I got them in order, but that's the 4 girls. And here they are with their mom in later years. Now, something that people may not know is after the divorce, Vivian and Johnny remained friends. In fact, when she wrote her book, I Walked the Line, you can get this on Amazon. Before she wrote this book, she came to Johnny and said, "Listen, I want to tell my story. Do I have your blessings?" And he said, "You write anything that you want to write. It's what happened. It's the truth.
Yeah, it's her history.
Yes, you have my blessings." So they had that kind of relationship. And in fact, when June passed away, she sent her deepest condolences to Johnny. So they had, wasn't like they were, fighting.
Well, I believe Vivian married the security guard that they hired to watch their property out in Casita Springs eventually. It was
I probably did. I don't know I do not doubt that what you're saying.
I love these pictures. It's just so cool to see what he would have looked at and hologram.
Well, here's one of the pictures he would have looked at. This is a painting that his daughter Kathy painted for her dad, and here he is the day that she gave it to him.
That's amazing. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Wow. Probably his hat from Jamaica.
Probably. I know it's his hat. I don't know if it, what time era it's from.
Love the tour jacket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's another one. Christmas in Scotland.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Seeing his bedroom.
This is out in that pasture.
Oh, right outside.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if this hat was Waylon's by any chance.
I think that was Johnny's.
Oh, was it? Yeah, it could be.
So there's his razor strap, pair of glasses.
Oh yeah, people always love to see what's in the makeup cabinets and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of his shade. Well, reading glasses, straight razor, King's Throne.
That's pretty much it for the house. Like I said, I just showed you the highlights.
Yeah.
And you can walk around. What I like to do now, though, is I like to take you out to the American Garage and show you the One Piece at a Time car.
Yeah, let's do it.
So.
Well, my friends, we are going to call it a day for the house tour. Come back tomorrow because we will have part 2 where we go out and see what else is on this property, including what's left of Colonel Parker's home. Yeah. We'll see you next time. Have a great night and goodbye.